Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending where you are in the planet. My name is Stark. I'm your host, and this is the Evan Studios Weekly Podcast, Season 2, Episode 25, somewhere around those lines. And today is November 20, 2025. Well, in some places in the world, again. So, welcome to another episode of the Evan Studios Weekly Podcast. This week we are going to talk about something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Obviously, it is relevant to our entire games. First and foremost, I want to appreciate everybody that is listening to the podcast live, and to everybody that is not but still listening to it. And I want to say that I don't know if this specific time slot is going to be the best for the most people to join, but we will see how it works out. I know last week I said that I wanted to bring the podcast back to Wednesdays, but yesterday we had Isaac over because we usually try to get Isaac in the office once or twice a week, and he was still working on some stuff related to Bloodlust last week, and he was working on it during the weekend. So when Monday comes, which is usually one of the days where he usually comes, he's still working on a lot of that stuff. So we felt like it was better to just push it on Wednesday to capitalize more on just creation in general, on production, to be more efficient. And so since he came yesterday, and he was able to stay at the office until much later, we were mostly focusing on focusing on working on the games. Other than, when I started thinking about the podcast, like, I'm just going to keep it at Thursday, one more week, and just focus on work right now, because we really want to make the most out of the time that Isaac and I are together at the office. And that kind of leads into what I wanted to talk about this week. I had a few ideas while I was working on the game. I was trying a few things because I was working on some maps, and I was working on designing the menus and whatnot. And I had some ideas, and there was a lot of decision making that happened in the last few days that had me question a few things. And this is the type of things that usually people don't really put much thought into it when they see, like, polls. But stuff like this is the type of stuff that is gonna make a huge difference in a game, but people usually don't care about it. I'm gonna try and break this down into the things that have been kind of like been just filling my head with thoughts lately. The first thing that I thought was just the sheer size of the games, and I was looking at the scene list from Bloodlust, and I was looking at just how many scenes the game has and how big the game might end up being. And I was looking at it, and I was thinking, at which point more scenes or less scenes is going to hurt the game? At this point, I was just like thinking of it from an entire game perspective. Like, we are trying to tell a narrative here, right? And we have these scenarios that we think they are hot, and they're going to when creating an entire game, this is something that I would honestly love to have discussions with other developers. I should try and set up a podcast in which I talked with other devs, even some more obscure ones that not a lot of people know about, and just try to discuss games for the sake of discussing games and see what's their perspective on some things. Because when you start creating an entire game, when I started creating Fleeting Iris, I can kind of like explain my trajectory into what led me to create entire games, and more specifically, what led me to create Fleeting Iris the way it is, and why I created Elastic Chronicles the way it is, and why later I decided to work on Journey Abroad and whatnot. And I would love to hear from other developers what led them into working not only in entire games but their specific games, and why do their games, why do they play the way they play? Like, what was the, not the influence, but what was like the idea for the plot? Why did you feel like this specific plot was going to be a strong plot? Like, what made you build certain characters a certain way? What made you pick the specific antagonists that you pick? All of these things feel like they are very, very small, and sometimes they're the things that create the biggest impact. Even as a community, the podcast format, I like it, but I would love to be able to have conversations with the community where people will participate and explain what kind of mangas do you read, what kind of games do you play, why do you play those games. And there's, just as there are people on the planet, there's probably just as many reasons as to why people play certain games or why people enjoy certain genres and whatnot. And sometimes the answer, it might be something that is kind of like an umbrella term. People can just go like, oh, because I like NTR. And yours was a pretty decent NTR game on a world where, I played just about every NTR game and I was attracted to yours. But Fleeting Iris specifically is not just an NTR game. And honestly, I don't feel like any game is just, a game about this. Usually, the answer is a lot deeper because there's a lot of things that compromise a game. There's a lot of elements to a game, right? I started creating Fleeting Iris. Some people know this, but I used to play so I started learning about entire games because I had a friend that was working on his game, and I helped them create stuff for his game, including code at the time and walkthroughs and whatnot. Then I started learning about a little bit more about the community, and I started playing other people's entire games, and eventually I created a community that used to discuss these entire games. We even had a podcast that will discuss the best games coming out like every week or every month, I don't remember. And at the end of the year, we will even have like a Game of the Year awards for entire games and whatnot. It was pretty fun way back then. I was a lot younger, had a lot more time, and honestly, either I was a lot less picky, or there was a lot better stuff coming out of the East. We would stay up almost every single night, waiting for DL site to show the daily releases and see what was good and what was not, if anything was worth buying and whatnot, and we will buy and play in those games. Maybe we just got a lot more picky about what we play, or but we stopped doing that for obvious reasons. But we also feel like not a lot of good stuff has been coming out of the East, but this might just be us just being a little bit more nitpicky, or maybe the market really changed to where people would rather release quick buck stuff other than actually putting passion into games. Now, a lot of you probably know that this is something that has been annoying me, to say the least, for quite some time now, where everything around us nowadays seems to be ultimately just a way to make money. Everything is a way to make more money, to make a bigger business, and that annoys me a lot. And I will explain this because this is a two-part. This is going to be like a two-part concern. The first one being like motivation for entire games, and the second one being why are we doing what we are doing. And I'm going to leave that part for later, and I'm just going to focus on why are we making this game specifically, and why I'm making this game in this manner. And anyone that played entire games, sure, you play the billion NTR games, but obviously there's a reason why you like some more than other. And obviously there are reasons why you might find some games playable in other NTR games, even if they're the genre that you want to play, you consider them bad. And that is about all the things that compromise a game, like all the elements of a game, everything from the story to things that how good the characters look, because you like the art, because you like the animations, because you like the setting, because you like the scenarios, because you like the writing, because you like the music, because you like the maps, because you like how people how the game is put together and how immersive the game might be to you and whatnot. There's a billion reasons as to why one person can like a game and not enjoy another game. For me, when I created Fleeting Hours, I started working on other people's games because the games were either buggy and I wanted to fix them and put the fixes back into the community, which I did. And I played quite a few games, and obviously you're going to develop some criticism. The developer could have done this better, the developer could have done this better and whatnot. And eventually I started modding games. I started just grabbing the images and creating my own scenes and trying to, improve the games. I probably have a lot of improvements still saved. Improvements to me doesn't mean they will have to be improvements for the community in general or the devs in general. But I had a lot of scenes that were like fan-based to the games. Of course, with some limitations because I don't have access to their artists and I can just put the characters in different positions, which that's at least the good part about AI games nowadays, is that if you play an anti game and you like it and it's made with with AI art, you can pretty much just emulate the art and you can create scenes and they're gonna come just as good because it's AI that does it. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you see this, it's not as easy to do since for Fleeting Hours. But at the time, I was just using the art that the devs already had, and a lot of games already had some art repetition, so who cares? And I was making my own scenes, and that led to eventually, at the time, to create translations of games. My most known one being Tuechi, a game that I translated a long time ago, and while I was translating it, I added a few routes and I created a few maps and improved the game as I thought it will be to what I thought it will be a better game eventually. And that game was a massive success, and a bunch of other games that I translated and I improved were a big success. I was kind of going with the motto of if you can do better, put your money where your mouth is. And I was like, sure, I can improve this, and I was. But eventually, you start getting the feeling like, if I'm working on this, I'm not getting paid to do this, and I obviously have these limitations where I cannot add better art. I cannot do a lot of stuff that probably I wouldn't have the approval of the dev to do. So why not work on my own game? And that's kind of where Alancia Chronicles kind of appeared, because I didn't know exactly what kind of game I wanted to make. I knew that there were a few motives that I liked at the time, such as corruption, such as the typical innocent girl next door just being corrupted and whatnot. I didn't like Turbo Sluts. There was a lot of things that I liked and a lot of things that I disliked. And that's kind of what led me to, how about I create a world where these games are kind of all happening in the same place at the same time. And in the end, all the characters get together and I kind of make it like a space odyssey and whatnot. And all of this was, believe it or not, this was influences from other games. All of this was influences from other games or TV shows or whatever. Like I decided to start with Fleeting Hours because Fleeting Hours is your typical visual novel, and I needed something to start with, so I didn't want to start with anything too complex with like battle system and whatnot. And that's why I decided that on Fleeting Hours. That's literally the thought process on why I went from editing other people's games to making my own, as to why exactly am I creating Fleeting Eyes? And that's also kind of why Ayame looks the way she looks, because I wanted to do an Eastern style Thai game. So I wanted to do kind of like a typical Thai character, where she would look sexy, but at the same time she would look I don't want to say blend, but she will be like very kind of like default-ish. So we wanted her to look like the very generic kind of Asian, but not really Eastern character. We wanted her to have like default black hair. We wanted her to look like the ultimate, simple, innocent, ultimate girl next door, right? We didn't want to create something that was physically too character defining on her. We wanted, well, her breasts were kept expanding during the development on request, but she was not supposed to be too tall or too short. She wasn't supposed to have too big breasts or too small breasts. But obviously the character became something during development where we were listening to the community, where they were telling us if what they liked and what they disliked, and we were kind of just listening to the community. And Ayame kind of became like a blend of all of the community's choices, so to speak. We did so many polls at the time, and we were voting: do you like this size breast or this size breast? Did you like the last scenes? Which antagonist did you like the most? And we were constantly discussing the game with the community, and eventually Ayame became what you see from Ayame nowadays. But we were trying to make a character that was, not too defined by her physical appearance. What we decided for the remaining characters, when we decided that we wanted to make a game kind of like Persona, where you got to go on missions and you got to create like social links and whatever, and you infiltrate in the school. It's a mixed match of a lot of games. It's your typical Persona meets 21 Jump Street meets a bunch of different games that were kind of popular at the time, and I liked the genre, and I thought that I could probably make something as good, right? So we decided to create that game. We decided to create dual female characters, female main characters, kind of like at the style I think we were playing at the time, something called like Parallel Fantasy. And those games used to have like two protagonists, and I was like imagining the scenarios where we could like match them both in some hentai scenes and actually make those hentai scenes really hot. And we wanted each character to reflect from Ayame, which was kind of like the neutral character. We wanted each character to be kind of like something for everyone, right? And we wanted to create these staple characters. We wanted to create the mature MILF blonde bombshell. We wanted to create the fiery redhead kind of tomboyish girl. For Night Eternal, we wanted to create a character that looked kind of like depressive, kind of like Luna. We wanted her to be, since all the other characters are kind of stacked, we wanted her to be a little bit more, plain looking, a little bit more immature features. And then finally for the zombie game, which was a genre that I also always loved, and I played a lot of games and saw a lot of movies on the genre. And I wanted to and I played some games later down the road that weren't even Thai games that gave me ideas to where I could improve the game, and I kept having ideas to make like this amazing zombie survival game. It all started with a game that was made with 3D CG. I don't remember the name of the game, but it was this blonde girl with like a red cardigan, and it was pretty much an RPG Maker Hentai game about zombies. And then I played a bunch of games such as This War of Mine, which was not an entire game, but State of Decay. I saw movies like Dawn of the Dead and whatnot, and from all those experiences, I started thinking that we could have like base management, community management. The game will change a lot depending on which community you were hanging with. I played Dying Light at the time. I was also thinking that some of the missions could have a huge impact on the world around you. So the ideas for this zombie game, they just kept coming and coming and coming, and I was playing other games and I was like, oh, what if I get this aspect and I flip it and I change it and I do this and this and this? I think this will look better if you do it this way. And the ideas just kept piling up and eventually I had like this massive idea for a game. And then for the female character, again, was supposed to look kind of plain. Luna was supposed to look kind of skinny, kind of depressive. Eve is supposed to look more mature, blonde. Jazz is supposed to look more tomboyish, and red hair. So eventually, what we wanted to make for the female main character with the purple hair, obviously, was like, okay, we already have green hair, black hair, we have blue hair, dark blue hair, we have red hair, we have blonde hair. I kind of wanted to stay away from blue hair and green hair because of the connotations that those type of hairs they have nowadays. If I make a character that has blue hair or green hair or pink hair or whatnot, she might be perceived on a different manner because of some political things. And I want to kind of stay I want to keep my games away from the political landscape. I want my games to be enjoyed apart from all that stuff. So I already had the kind of thick but still within proportions black hair Ayame. I have with the golden eyes. Then I have the kind of immature blue hair, Goldilocks, skinny, ice cool clothes girl on Luna, which had blue hair and blue eyes. And then I had the red hair with a lot of muscles and green eyes. And then I had the blonde bombshell with blue eyes. So by the time I got to create Melissa, I was like, okay, purple hair, and she's gonna have the big ass. Like no one has an ass like her on all of our games. She's gonna have like nice tits, but her ass is gonna be her calling card. It's gonna be like, what makes this character special in comparison to the other ones? Well, this one has an athletic physique. This character looks a little bit more petite. This character looks a little bit more MILF with the massive jugs. And Melissa was like purple hair, like red eyes and big ass, just to be different from anything else. So I started looking characters with purple hair and whatnot online, and that's when I figured out that I picked a character that looks like an anime character. But this kind of explains how I went to create specifically these games and why I picked these characters the specific way that I picked them. Okay? And this is kind of like my thought process. And I picked these games because I was playing games on similar genres and with similar scenarios at the time, and I thought those games were hot, and I wanted to make my own. Okay? But I didn't want to repeat scenarios, or I didn't want to pile up on work that other people have done, so I wanted to create my own stuff. Now, for Fleeting Iris, the game got so big because every time I was working on the game, I would have a new idea for a new character, for a new route, and then I will make a character that was supposed to have only one scene, and people will see it and go like, yo, you need to fucking, you need to develop this route deeper, kind of like the rich guy with the kids that lose their football. I made it like one scene. People made me make it like a full route out of it. It wasn't supposed to be, but again, people decided that they wanted it, and I gave the people what they want. Same thing with the massage parlor. I only had like one small scene there. People want me to create a full route out of it, and basically this was it. There were like a few characters that were supposed to only get one scene at a time, and people kept asking me to expand on those routes, and that's kind of like how Fleeting Hours got as big as it is. So at the end of the day, you have to question yourself, why am I creating these antagonists? Why am I creating these characters? Like, what am I making on this that is hot about the game and makes my game better than other people's games, or makes my game more memorable than other people's games? And I was looking at all the routes in Bloodlust, and I was like, okay, the game is already getting too big, because I'm getting these ideas. There's all this stuff that I want to add to the game. But if I keep adding stuff that I think it will be hot to the game, I can start working on a game now and edit on 2050. Because I'm always going to get ideas, so I need to create limits. Like, if this character doesn't need to be in the game, they need to be cut. And there were a lot of ideas. Since they're like CIA agents, I was going to think about some subway molesters. I was thinking about the BBC kids from the beach in Fleeting Iris, Eve kind of like meet them and whatnot. And granted, those scenes will probably be pretty hot. One has to question, like, do these scenes bring anything in specific to this game other than they're just hot scenes? Am I just making the game drastically bigger for stuff that technically might not add anything to the game? And I do feel like I created 3 or 4 routes that, the scenes for them, they definitely sound like they're kind of hot, but at the same time, they don't add as much to the game as the antagonist gym coach from Eve's childhood, or the school principal, or the janitor that Morgan suggested later down the road, or the landlord that is kind of like an informer. All of these guys, obviously because of their connection with the plot, are going to bring more to the game than black guy with big dick on the beach, right? Sure, we can make those scenes work, and we can make those scenes work kind of like effortlessly with the game, but it feels like we're just adding scenes to the game for the sake of adding scenes to the game. And I was thinking that maybe we should cut some scenes from the game so that we can keep the focus on the characters that actually matter. And all of this is perfectly fine. I was considering this from a developer standpoint, and I was thinking, like, okay, so what is it about Bloodlust that people are gonna love? What was it about Fleeting Iris that people loved? And it actually got me questioning if I'm not just being too hard with Fleeting Iris sometimes, because sure, I am the developer of Fleeting Iris. 99% of what is in the game is there because of me. But the way I talk about Fleeting Iris, sometimes it feels like I'm shitting on my own son. And just because you gave birth to something doesn't mean that that thing is yours, or that thing is yours to destroy. It's not the same feeling as family. Like, I can talk shit about my brother, but I'm going to be like super pissed if anyone else talks shit about my brother. But that's different. When you create a game, you're kind of putting this game out there. You're putting this game out there in the world, and people start enjoying the game, and people really like the game. And even if you're the developer, if you shit in the game, you're still coming off as someone that is shitting on something that someone else enjoys. And made me think, like, just because I'm developing Fleeting Iris does not give me the right to, just because I think that I could make the game better nowadays, or that I should have made the game better back then, it doesn't give me the right to shit on the game because I'm shitting on something that other people really, really enjoyed. And this might seem weird, but I'm getting up there in terms of age. I'm old. I'm 40 at this point, and I'm getting older. and I spend more time just thinking and considering things. And this might seem kind of like something stupid, but I really try to go not to go. I really go out of my way to try not to shit on people's preferences and opinions, and be respectful and mindful and all this shit. And I honestly am playing. I'm looking at the game and I'm like, okay, but what am I creating? I really love the game, and I kind of know why I made it. But at the end of the day, we kind of have to look at people and feel like, why do you want to play this game? Or even better, what makes you come back to play this game over and over and over and over? What are the elements about this game that you find here that you feel like you can't find anywhere else? And that's the problem with the podcast. I feel like if I was making a podcast with other devs, I'm not saying that the podcast is a problem, but I'm feeling that there's more to explore on this matter, right? I would love to talk to the community, be able to ask these questions and get direct answers from the community. Like, I like the game because of this. I enjoyed this game specifically because of this. So I could look at my game and be like, okay, how can I make my game better for the community that I'm creating the game for? Okay, that's kind of the thing. I would also like to create a podcast, and this is why I might try to get in touch with some of the devs that I know. Obviously, sometimes there's some communication issues because people can put text in an engine and translate it. But I know a lot of devs that speak Japanese and nothing else. I know a few devs that speak Portuguese and very little else. But I would love to have kind of like a podcast, and I'm pretty sure that you guys will appreciate it as well if I made a podcast with other anti-game devs and kind of try to figure out what led them to create a specific game, what led them to write a character in a certain manner and whatnot. I feel like that will be super interesting. Yeah, and it's something that I'm definitely considering in the future. In the near future, I'm going to start talking to some of my friend devs very, very soon and try to figure this out. So I kind of explained why I created the universe of Valencia Chronicles, and the antagonists are just something that I feel like they kind of like have legs to stand on their own. They don't need like a massive explanation as to why they are in the game. Like, let's say that Arthur is in the game. It might be or it might not. Wink, wink. People that played Fleeting Hours will understand why Arthur is in the game. Sorry, not Arthur. I mean Armand, the office route boss in Fleeting Hours. Obviously, the school principal. Obviously, the landlord. Obviously, the romantic childish crush and the romantic bully from your childhood. All of these characters kind of like have archetypes that kind of stand on their own, at least characteristically. Maybe when it comes to like their physical traits and whatnot, there can be some changes here and there, but in just in their characters, in their scenarios, in their backgrounds, they kind of have like they're kind of like intuitive. Like, they're CIA agents infiltrating a school. Obviously, these characters are going to be like a big part of it. So there's a lot of things that on Bloodlust that I feel like they are going to be super important, like in making people want to replay the game. Obviously, the battle system is one of them. But I was just sitting down. I was creating the maps, but I was like just blankly staring at the screen and thinking, which games did I play? Which games did I play that I felt like that I came back over and over and over? And why did I keep coming back to those games? Why did I keep coming back to these entire games? Some of them were the story. Some of them were the amazing art and animations and the voiceovers. Some of them were whatever, the battle system, the corruption element of the game. There were a multitude of reasons of why I got back to the game And I kept thinking, if this is kind of like the holy grail of games, like figuring out why people keep coming back to specific games, what can be the holy grail for Bloodlust? What can be the element about Bloodlust that is going to keep people coming back to the game even after they finished it? Why will people want to come back to the game again? And what is going to make people remember this game 10 years from now, 20 years from now? What is going to make this game great? And that's when you start thinking on all the small details of the game. And I thought, okay, so Journey Abroad is kind of like my personal project, because Bloodlust is literally the sequel of Fleeting Hours. And I know that there's a lot of people that don't love the start of Journey Abroad because it's slow and whatnot. It's kind of like a slow burn. But here's the second part of what I was saying earlier. When you're creating a game, regardless of all the reasons of why you are creating the specific game, with these specific characters, with this specific plot and whatnot, if you are creating a game out of passion, not out of, I'm just going to make an entire game and make money, at what point do you start making way too many sacrifices to where you can look at yourself in the mirror and you can say, I'm still making this out of passion? And there's a lot of stuff that it just annoys me. I've said this story a million times. I grew up in the 90s where people did things out of passion and everything was done out of, I'm just going to try and make this look cool, dude. Like, there weren't predatory tactics. People wouldn't make the floor carpet and the walls red just to call attention to that. People will use all these predatory tactics to get you to play the game or buy the game, or, oh, this looks cool. Why? Because it's red. I don't know. People will do the most outlandish, out there stuff because they thought, hey man, this is cool. This is different. Let's make a game that is a fighting game, but it's kind of like a comic book game, and you walk through you walk through the comic book strips, and you're fighting a guy in a strip, and then you jump down to the bottom strip. Some dudes thought about this. They made a game. It's called like Comic Zone or whatever, and it was like super revolutionary. And at the same time, you feel like usually the first guys usually the guys at the front line are the first ones to go. Or like people like to say, the nail that stands out is the one that gets the hammer. When working on Journey Abroad, I feel like it's time for me to take more risks. Like financially, we're already going further in the red every month. We're not doing this out of profit, and obviously we need to try and get Bloodlust out as soon as possible and try to make this profitable. But I understand that profitable is a means to an end. But if I'm just making games out of making profit, like, what's the point? What is the point at that point? Just making games, just to make money. Maybe people won't see, maybe it won't come true on the game that you no longer feel passion for making games. Maybe you can just generate generic content and people might be like, no, it's still a great game, we love it, whatever. It might be true. Like, there has been plenty points in time where creators have created something that they weren't happy with, and then the result, the end result, the way that people received the product ended up being amazing. But I don't know, man. Like, there's just stuff that I feel like we should add to the game, and all of it feels like a risk. But it how can you claim that you're passionate about making games and you just ignore anything that might seem like a risk? I wanted to create Journey Abroad is a game where the characters are rich, the world feels lively. Um, every time you play, you get like a different experience, and it kind of plays like The Sims. You have to go to get a job. You need to make some money. You can buy three or four different houses. You can buy three or four different fridges, and depending on the fridge that you buy, your happiness increases, and all of this is stuff that people are going to consider too much, and especially too much for an entire game. But I feel like there's some of these ideas that I have that I feel like if I added them to the game will be so much better, and it will be just something else, something more than just an entire game. But at the same time, I don't want it to feel like I'm just turning my back on the community and just going wild with these ideas that people are not going to enjoy, or as a developer, there's a lot of things that we have to consider. Why am I making a game? Why am I making this specific game? Am I doing something for me, or am I doing this for the community? Am I giving the community what they want, or all of these questions? It might sound kind of pointless, especially for people that have very like shallow ideas, and they just put out whatever game they have, and it's kind of like dev as you go. I have seen plenty of games. I can point you out to a bunch of games where it definitely felt like the dev had like an initial idea, and at some point it was like, okay, what is the flavor of the month? What is the flavor of the month this month? Oh, this new manga came out. There's this scene that is hot. I'm gonna make kind of like this scene on my own game, and I can point out all the endless exciting affections, all of the Lily of the Valleys, all of I can point out all of the games that you 100% can tell that the dev did this. They had an idea up until some point, and from that point on, anything that was out at a certain time, a new manga, a new this, a new that, they started making scenes, and the game is like, it's kind of like a scene collector, but at some point it just makes no sense. There's no story. Nothing furthers the plot. They create a character, then forget about that character for months. And the game is just chaotic. And a lot of people fell into that trap, and now they're just making games for the sake of making money. I'm going to keep making this because this is my my golden egg goose, and I'm going to keep making it. And that might be okay for them, but that's not what I want Bloodlust or Journey Abroad or any of my future games to be. At the same time, one has to question and be fearful, because any wrong move, it might be the end of the studio. Or maybe I start making stuff and it's not even anything that the community wants. So there's definitely people that make games that they tell other devs, it's maybe you should take a risk. Maybe you should stop listening to what is mainstream. Maybe you should stop listening to all these strategies and predatory tactics, and start taking risks for the sake of making something that might be new, refreshing, that might keep players coming and play your game for the next 10, 20, God knows how many years. Sometimes it might be nostalgia, sometimes it might be whatever. I remember that there's a game called Jones in the Fast Lane. You can probably find that game online for free. It's just that, Jones in the Fast Lane. It was a game about this stupid character. It's on MS-DOS. You can probably find it online for free. And you will have to kind of like find a job, enroll in school, increase your academic proficiency so you can find a better job and whatnot. And the game was just this: you will give yourself goals, like this academic goal or this job goal. Find a job that pays more than X, and certain happiness, and certain this and certain that. And this game was kind of basic, and the game is like 30 years old, and now and then I still go online and find it to try and find a game and play it, because I felt like the game was kind of unique, and up until this point, no one has still done a game that kind of plays like that. I wanted that for Journey Abroad. I wanted a game that could stand on its own, plus be an amazing entire game. And I want the same for Bloodlust. I want Bloodlust to be good on all of its aspects. I want the battle rape system and whatnot. I want that to feel incredibly hot. I want the player to have agency. I want the player to be able to reach the end of the game as a virgin, or be able to corrupt the character as much as they want. I want to be able to give the character titles. I want to keep track of all the stats. How many times they were kissed? How many times did they this? How many times did they do that? There's a lot of small components that I feel like make the game better. At the end of the day, there's only so much you can innovate before you start thinking that you're taking risks. I'm going to be creating something that maybe no one even enjoys. Maybe no one wants to play anti-game Sims. Nobody wants to play the Sims version of an anti-game or whatever. It will be so easy with the quality of the artists that we have to put out the next cookie cutter NTR game, to put out the next cookie cutter incest family game. It will be so easy. Have you seen the quality of the stuff that I create in terms of dialogue, in terms of this, in terms of that? Dumbing it down to the next cookie cutter, just dish out scenes games, it will be incredibly easy. And we probably will be a lot more profitable. But then I will probably feel like a shitty person. The only reason why I'm able to do this and be more broke every month is because I'm passionate about making these games. It's because I love this community. It's because I want to make these games for this community. If I got rich creating something that I'm not passionate about, I don't know if I could keep doing it. Just for the sake of, I can't be constantly criticizing people for bringing nothing new to the world or of interest. People are just making music for the sake of making money. People are just making, cartoons and games, specifically games with the most predatory gacha games type of stuff that is going to be kind of like, people don't even like this, but they feel like they're enslaved by it. I have felt that in games where I felt like for a while that I couldn't quit because I was already too invested in the game. And then they kind of did a bait and switch on me, but I was already invested in the game. And I had already bought skins, and I had already spent so many hours improving my character. And then at the end of the day, I couldn't just turn my back and say, no, I'm in a toxic relationship. I need to get away from this game. And sometimes when I see people doing stuff just for the sake of being nice, or being different, or being passionate, or giving other people a chance, I tell myself, this is what the world needs right now. It's not more robotics, it's not more AI, it's not more pattern, it's not more, it's being human. It's taking risks, it's doing something out of passion. The thing that nothing in the world can that no AI, regardless of how many inputs and how many, it can replicate. It's being passionate about doing something. It's being revolutionary. It's being creative. I want to be creative. I want to make the next game where people play and they feel like I couldn't get this anywhere else. But at the same time, I also don't want to make a game where people don't even want to play the game, because it's always a risk. One never knows when you're making a game for yourself or when you're just trying to be different for the sake of being different, and then you end up, cheating on everybody that decided to give you a chance. And yeah, and basically the studio has a bunch of mouths to feed, and there comes a point where you have to weigh your risks, and sometimes you just have to accept the loss and keep creating the next cookie cutter bullshit just because you have mouths to feed. It is what it is. Like Vincent said, the problem with seems like anti-games is most of them are a grind simulator, which makes the player go use a save editor or cheat engine to progress this faster. One example that comes to mind is it was cut off, but well, if I ever decided to make a game of that type, I will probably add kind of like a cheat menu in the game where you can just cheat and, hey man, I appreciate that you made the game, but this is not what I'm here for. And then you just cheat, and then you go, you ignore all that part. But I wanted to make a game that is, kind of deeper for people that actually want to have a good time and experience something for more than I'm just playing an entire game. And I don't know about you guys, I have played a few entire games where I felt like I'm not even here for the sex. Sometimes I'm here for the gameplay, I'm here for the story, I'm here for a multitude of reasons. The final one might actually be the art and the context and whatever it is. But damn it, there's games that are really, really fucking good out there, dude. Some dude thought about, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do fucking Angry Birds, but the Angry Birds are chicks, and the enemies fuck their chicks if they land on them, and then they get impregnated, and then you can mix match them, and then some new chicks come out. Dude, that shit was like, what the fuck, dude? That shit was that game is so fun, and it's so good, and the art is really good, and give me a second, my cat is going wild. I want that, dude. I want to make a game that you guys really, really fucking enjoy and keep coming back to. So I don't know, man. I'm gonna make a poll or something. Okay, give me just one more second. I want to make a poll or start a thread in Discord and hope that people participate and whatnot. And I'm gonna ask people like which games have made a the biggest impression on you, and why do you think that was? Was it the art? Was it the scenes? Was it specific scenes? What it was? And then maybe, just maybe, we can find a pattern. Maybe we can find it was the RPG elements. It was the immersion. It was this. It was that. And all of these are things that I like, and then we can see what we should put more thought and more time into. And all of this kind of started because I had an idea. I played a game a long time ago. I don't remember the game, but it was something manner, something bullshit. And at the night time, that it's kind of weird. I don't know if everybody feels that, but it feels like there was like some songs that they feel like they're summertime songs, and there are songs that feel that they're like wintertime songs, and there are songs that feel like they're nighttime songs. I don't know if this makes sense to you guys, but we definitely feel like humans feel like we get in tune with stuff, and we see past just what it is. Like everybody knows what something is tribal, and you see some type of drum and it's about to go to war. Or you see some violin and it's time for sadness. And we connect emotionally to these things. Right? And that was like the nighttime in that game where it kind of like darkened the whole map of his with like a parallax, and the lights were placed just perfectly, and you will hear like the noises that you wouldn't hear in the morning, like stepping on wood. You will hear like the wood creak, and I felt like I kept coming back to that game because I felt the game was like super immersive. It was an entire game, and I really felt like that type of immersion that I got there, I don't get on many other games. And it kind of feels like every time I play that game and it's nighttime and I'm in the house and whatnot, it feels like you're visiting a place that you know. You know, it's kind of stupid, but that's kind of the impact that I wanted to make with the games. When you watch an anime and you get like super psyched for the characters, and when the anime ends, you feel like you're at the street and your friends tell you, "My parents are sending me are telling me to go home. I see you tomorrow," and you don't want to stop playing. You're there with your little friend. You're 8 and you're like your friend is going away and you're like, "Oh well, that sucks. Well, I gotta see you tomorrow." You know, all those feelings when when it's the last episode of the anime of the day or whatever. I want that. I want to put that in my games. I want my games to bring emotion out of people. I want the games to not be just amazing hentai. I want the characters to be rich. I want the hentai to hit different. I want like you to worry about a character. I want when someone does something bad about a character, you kind of feel angry. And I want when some character finally gets to have their way with Eve or have their way with whatever, I want the feelings to be like you are rooting for the character. And that's kind of what I want to make with Bloodlust, and that's kind of what I make with Journey Abroad. But there's really a fine line between how much effort you're putting into this to where your main goal is not getting people to see hot enticings. It's always a game of give or take. It's not give or take, it's give and take. At the end of the day, obviously we want to create games that are going to become profitable, and we want to create games that the community is going to enjoy. But we also kind of want to create games where we can innovate and give you guys something that you guys can just find on every fucking game. That you go on F95, you kick a rock and you eat 30 games that are just as good. Maybe not in terms of dialogue or in terms of the scenarios or the creativity or whatever it is, but it's like, oh, that game was not memorable. Honestly, I didn't even have people tell me many times, or if at all, why did they found Fleeting Aries memorable? Why do they follow us? Like, I know it's because they like what we do, but at the end of the day, the question is why? It's not that we want to create something formulaic. We just want to keep delivering to our fans more of what made them happy. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. We want something that you can relax at the end of the day, be excited for a new version when it comes out, and that you felt like it was worth waiting for that one more version. That's kind of what we want to achieve. And without feeling like we failed anyone, we want to innovate and create games that can stand on just their game itself and the story and whatnot, other than, oh, that character is hot and she's having sex. Yeah, this is the type of stuff that we probably spend too much time thinking of. I don't want you guys to see this like as a negative note, but this is also part of developing, and I just hope you guys understand when I'm coming from, and our dev sometimes feels about when they're developing their games. It's it's fucked up. But again, we are. That's probably because we're just passionate. We're doing something. It's great. We just want to do more. We want to go further. We want to create games that are when I was creating the darker tile sets for Journey Abroad, I told Isaac, okay, I'm doing this, I'm testing it, I feel like I'm going to enjoy it, and this is how we're going to apply it to the game, and this is how we can apply it without being too heavy on time, and without making it spend too much time or whatever. And he asked me, okay, but why? And I feel like the game is going to be better with this, and he's like, okay, but you're going to have all this effort for this. Do you feel like this really adds that much to the game? Do you really feel like people are going to appreciate all the time that you put into this? People won't even realize how much time you put into that, just so you can have a darker map and this and that. And I told him, I actually do. I feel like if the game becomes more immersive, and the people definitely feel like a certain mood about the places, and the people kind of like, start relating to the places and start feeling immersed in the game and whatnot. If the game feels more immersive, people are going to feel things a different way. But at the end of the day, you that thing stays in their head. It rings in your head like, why are you adding this? Does it really add that much to the game? Do people really going to appreciate it? Or are you just wasting time? Are you just trying to innovate and doing a bunch of extra shit that no one will ever fucking care about? And that's the question. Do you do it? Or do you don't? So, in order for us to not end the podcast on kind of like a down note, I'm going to show you guys a spoiler. Now, I know you guys are going to be like, sorry, but why don't you show more spoilers? Well, you guys got to remember, it's still an entire game. I can't just go around and showing all the spoilers of all the stuff because YouTube is going to ban us. And this is the kind of the Eve peep scene. Imagine that there's a window somewhere here on the side, and she notices that someone is, someone is getting happy with pictures of Eve showering. And we're just doing the fine details and the coloring and whatnot in this. And we feel like it's going to be a pretty hot scene. And even on these small scenes where we just see a character from behind and whatnot, there's a lot of detail that goes into this stuff. And that I'm like, listen, try to make it so that you can tell them the pennies mark, and make sure that all the details on the folds on the clothes, people actually love those small details, and make sure that her breasts, like her breasts are big. The last time I saw them, they were like much smaller. Like, make sure that people can tell how big her breasts are even from behind, and all these small details, because I feel like it's sometimes in these small details that people get hooked on these games, even on the small details, and sometimes specifically on the small details. And some people don't care that much about it. They just skip it. And like I said right at the start, there's probably as many opinions as there are people in the world. And that's about 8 billion opinions. We're still going to try and make something that, something for everyone. And at the end of the day, we just hope that we create good games that make you guys feel good at the end of the day. That make you guys feel that it's a different game, that came out of a place of passion, of creativity, a human place, not something that they're just making this to make money. The world has enough of that. It's time to make stuff for the sake of innovating. It's time of making stuff for the sake of putting something positive out in the world. I know it makes it sound more than just an entire game, but it's more than just an entire game, bro. It's entertainment. It's an experience. And we don't want to just put out the next shitty experience. We want to put out some fucking top quality experience. We want to make something that people really, really enjoy. We don't want to make the next cookie cutter bullshit game. We're gonna keep working hard towards it. And I guess at the end of the day, you guys are gonna tell us if we're doing a good job or not. I guess that's it for today, guys. I really appreciate you guys for showing up every single week. I was happy to show up this week. Next week I will try to be here on Wednesday. Bloodlust is going great, dudes. Like, you're definitely going to enjoy it. Right now, it's very on par with what Fleeting Hours was. With the differences that the quality of the drawings and the maps and the soundtrack and all this is much better, especially because nowadays we can have we're just better in drawing and whatnot, but we also have AI to correct our grammar and stuff like that, which makes a huge difference. Because I remember getting a lot of criticism when I started working on Fleeting Hours that my grammar was shit and I was a comma splicer and whatnot, and they were right. But yeah, see, that's the type of shit that some people are going to be incredibly turned off about a game. He's playing a game and the game has has a bunch of errors. So yeah, I'm going to make a post on Discord asking you guys what were your favorite hentai games and what made you really enjoy that game specifically. If you guys can show up on Discord and leave your opinion there, it's going to be on the channel General in Alansi Chronicles. I will really appreciate if you guys leave your opinion there and try to be as specific as possible about why you enjoy those games. And I'm also, if you guys are anti-game devs, even if your game is super small and you're just starting and you need a plug and whatnot, do send me a private message if you can speak proper English or just as bad as me. And I can probably try and create a podcast where I talk with other devs and you guys let me pick your brains, and maybe we can collect a bunch of information that will help us and a bunch of other devs create better games for the community, if that makes any sense. Raniel9271 said, nice to hear your reasoning and passion of making these games. I appreciate you for showing up. It's definitely my pleasure to share it with you guys. I hope you guys understand, and it's probably just another way of me of contributing to the community, regardless if you're just players or if you're planning to make games eventually. I definitely want to start that podcast where I teach you guys how to make games. And who knows, maybe this is one of those moments. I just had this conversation, you heard it. Maybe I start making that podcast and one of you starts making a dev, and maybe if I don't make a difference, maybe, who knows, one of you will. And if I was able to add a little spark to that fire that one of you is going to create, then I've done my part. It is what it is. Thank you guys so much for showing up another week. I will try to be here next week. Bloodlust will be coming out very, very soon. I appreciate you guys for the support. Every single dime helps, and all of the nice things and all of the contributions you guys have given to Evan Studios, regardless if it was just criticism, opinions, and just in general, just being around. I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys in the chat for showing up. Morgan, once again, Vincent, once again, Raniel, really nice to see you here. And everybody not listening to this live, I appreciate you guys for listening regardless. Thank you so much for listening to the Evan Studios Weekly Podcast, and I will see you guys next week. Much love, much fortune, much health, and much peace. Take care, guys.